Hello and welcome back to Nerd Doc. In this video, we're going to break down The Whale. It's a very good movie, so if you haven't had the chance to see it, we highly recommend it. This video does contain spoilers for The Whale. This is your spoiler warning. There are also chapter timestamps, so you can jump around the video as you wish. And if you have any questions we did not address, or just want to let us know what you thought of the film, leave a comment below. The movie is still in theaters, so we can only use footage from trailers, so please bear with us there. The Whale follows Charlie, an online college professor who is morbidly obese and suffers from congestive heart failure. Charlie's best friend is Liz, who is a nurse, and the sister of Charlie's former lover, Alan. Alan committed suicide years ago due in part to pressure from his highly religious father. Alan never directly appears in the film beyond a photo, but is referenced many times. Charlie left his alcoholic ex-wife Mary roughly a decade ago, when their daughter Ellie was only 8 years old. Now she's on the verge of flunking out of high school, and Charlie reaches out to her for the first time since he divorced her mother, although he has been asking her mother about her regularly throughout the years. As you may have already guessed, congestive heart failure occurs when the heart is not functioning properly and is unable to pump blood as efficiently as the body needs it to. When this happens, fluid can build up around the heart and in the lungs, causing shortness of breath and other symptoms. If not properly treated, it can be life-threatening, and in some cases, a heart transplant is required. In Charlie's case, his obesity was the primary cause of the congestive heart failure. Liz diagnoses this early in the film and implores Charlie to go to the hospital, saying that he'll likely die by the end of the week if he doesn't seek medical help. Liz's diagnosis comes on Monday, with the film going day by day until we reach Friday when Charlie finally dies. Charlie refuses to go to the hospital several times throughout the film, claiming he can't afford the medical bills, despite the fact that he has over $100,000 in the bank saved up for Ellie, something he neglected to tell Liz, despite how close they are. This actually causes a small rift between Liz and Charlie late in the film because Liz sacrificed a lot for Charlie, and there were times in which even a moderately small amount of money would have made her life considerably easier while she was helping him, but she put up with it because she wanted to help him and assumed he had no money. While healthcare costs in the US are some of the worst in the world, and the US is one of the only first world countries that does not offer some form of universal healthcare, Charlie could have afforded a visit to the hospital to save his life. He chooses not to for two reasons. The money he saved up is strictly for Ellie, whose conception he views as the only good thing he's done in life. Charlie also blames himself for Alan's suicide, despite the fact that most of the blame should fall on Alan's father. Alan's father set up an arranged marriage for him to a woman close to his father's church. Alan had no intention of marrying a woman, let alone in an arranged marriage. He was taking classes at Charlie's college back when Charlie was not obese and taught in person. The two fell in love, waited until the end of the semester, then began a relationship that lasted for some time before Alan's father tried to stage an intervention of sorts that eventually pushed Alan into taking his own life. Charlie saw Alan fading away, but felt that his love for Alan would be enough to save him, that he wouldn't need anything else so long as he knew how much Charlie loved him. Unfortunately, that was not the case, which is why Charlie blames himself for Alan's death, thinking he could have done more to help him, when in reality it's somewhat unlikely anyone other than Alan's father could have done anything to prevent his suicide. Charlie knows he's going to die. He doesn't believe he deserves to live and doesn't want to dip into his daughter's fun just to prolong his death. But the one last thing he wants to do while he's still alive is reconnect with his daughter. Charlie reaches out to Ellie directly without her mother knowing and convinces her to stop by his apartment. It's here that he discovers Ellie is on the verge of failing out of high school and offers to help her with her English papers. Ellie has a fairly negative outlook on life and is initially reluctant to do any work even if her estranged father is assisting. However, Charlie convinces her to try by saying he'll give her all the money he has saved up if she continues to come back to his apartment and they work together on improving her grades. Charlie was already planning on giving this money to Ellie, and their agreement goes back and forth concerning who will actually write the English papers, but in the end it was more about Charlie connecting with his daughter, discovering how smart she is, and trying to help her realize her own potential, partially fearing she may end up taking her own life just like Alan. The Whale focuses quite a bit on Ellie's writing. When Charlie has his first medical issue of the movie, a severe panic attack that places him on the verge of heart failure, he's essentially saved by Thomas, a missionary who happens to knock on his door at just the right time. In order to calm himself down, Charlie has Thomas read him an old essay on Moby Dick. Charlie has the essay memorized, and just hearing the words significantly helps him to calm down. This is because the essay was written by Ellie and offers her bluntly truthful analysis of the novel. Charlie views truth in writing as far more important than anything else. He instills this in his students as well as within Ellie. Write your truth instead of writing what other people want to hear, namely Charlie in the case of his students, or Ellie's teacher in her case. Charlie isn't true to himself, he felt as though he wasn't true to Alan, and he wasn't true to his family. In Charlie's mind, this caused Alan's death and a broken relationship with his daughter. In reality, Charlie simply wasn't true to himself. Instead of accepting his faults and shortcomings and trying to be part of his daughter's life long ago, he's hidden away in his apartment, afraid of the world even before he became obese, and eventually fearing how they would view such a morbidly obese man, even going to the lengths of lying about his webcam being broken so he doesn't have to show himself to his students during their online sessions. There's also Dan the pizza man, who would deliver a pizza to Charlie every night. Charlie would never open the door, leaving money in the mail slot. Despite this, Dan would always ask how he's doing and was genuinely worried about his unseen customer. To Charlie, Dan represented the outside world as a whole. He remained unseen until near the end of the film, but he was always curious about Charlie's well-being until he saw Charlie's obesity, at which point he turned his back on Charlie as Charlie predicted the world would do. This essentially confirmed Charlie's thoughts about the evil judgment of the world. Thomas was also afraid of the world. At first, he claims to be a missionary for New Life Church that Alan and Liz's father runs. However, he left his original church, stealing money from it, and has been living on his own for a short time. His encounter with Charlie ultimately sets his life back on the right path. When Thomas initially meets Ellie at Charlie's apartment, she's immediately interested in who this person is and what he's all about. This is Ellie's natural curiosity and an extension of her concern for her father. Who is this mysterious boy who seemingly has a relationship with her father that even she doesn't have? She eventually gets him to spill the beans about how he ran away from home, stealing money from the church in the process. Unbeknownst to Thomas, Ellie records all of this, including Thomas's truth, there's that running theme again, about how he truly wants to help people, just not in the way the church was teaching. To force Thomas's hand and make him realize his parents and the world as a whole would still accept him, Ellie sent the recording to his family and former church. They, in turn, reached out to Thomas and welcomed him back home. One of the saddest parts of the film, beyond Charlie's death, is the fact that Ellie never realizes the full outcome of her actions here. She has an idea of what will happen, which is why she did it in the first place, but she never gets actual confirmation of the outcome. At the end of The Whale, Charlie is having another medical emergency. It's Friday now, and he's on the verge of death. Ellie is there, essentially begging her father to stay alive and be with her, which is all she's wanted for years. After reconnecting with him over the last week, she now wants this more than anything. While it's too late for Charlie, he is dead set on teaching Ellie one more lesson before he passes on to the great beyond. At the end of their first meeting in his apartment, Ellie asks Charlie to walk over to her without the assistance of his walker. Charlie gives up, claiming he can't do it, then Ellie storms out, exasperated. All she wanted was for her father to prove he can put in the effort for himself and for her. Success was important, but she really only wanted to see him put in the effort, not only to show that he would do it for her, but also for himself. Ellie needed to know her father still cared and didn't just abandon her. This would also show that he can work toward exercising and eventually losing weight, which would keep Charlie in Ellie's life, saving him from death. On the verge of death, Charlie asks Ellie to read her essay on Moby Dick out loud. It's at this point that Ellie realizes how much her father cared throughout the years, holding on to her old essay with the words meaning so much to him. Charlie used the motivation from hearing his own daughter read her essay to him to stand up on his own and walk across the room to her. It's a great struggle for Charlie, but he succeeds, presumably changing Ellie's outlook on life from that point forward, and dying just as he reaches her, signified by Charlie floating upward into a white light, another nod at the various religious aspects of the film, bringing everything full circle and almost poking a little fun at religion in a way. Over the course of the week we spent with Charlie and his associates, Charlie teaches Ellie that there's value to her life, which in turn will help her mother cope as well, since in theory, Ellie should be less rebellious. Ellie couldn't stop her father from dying, but this experience could result in convincing her mother to stop drinking, effectively saving her life. For Thomas, he has renewed his faith in humanity and his religious beliefs. Thomas felt he was brought to Charlie's doorstep for a reason, and that event did in fact change his life for the better. Unfortunately, Liz got the worst of it. She has now lost her brother and her best friend, both of whom she could have saved in theory with the proper help. She is arguably the biggest victim in the film, as she had the knowledge and ability to prevent this sadness, but instead chose not to act. So what did you think of The Whale? Is it worthy of all the awards attention it's currently getting? Should Liz have just called 911 and saved Charlie's life? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. For now, that wraps up this video. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed the video, please don't forget to like, subscribe, and share with someone who loves Best Picture hopefuls.